pronouns. This is my second year teaching at MA. I teach U.S. history, modern European history, and gender studies. To define gender, we really need to break it down. When we look at gender, we look at society's expectations for certain traits that we have that align with masculinity or femininity. Our gender is how we identify and how we fit into society's expectations for how we behave or what our roles are. The connection that we have between gender and biological sex is your biological sex is the sex that's assigned to you at birth. So based on the baby's genitals and chromosomes, in biology we have a sex assigned at birth. And in our society, we assume a gender based on that sex assigned at birth. So if you are assigned female at birth, it's assumed that the gender will be girl. However, our gender doesn't always align with society's expectations for how we behave based on our sex assigned at birth. So our gender is like I said, it's our identity and it's our expression and it's our relationship with our body. And so the connection between gender and sex assigned at birth are society's expectations, but really gender and sex assigned at birth are two different things that we've connected together but are not inherently related. So if a person's gender identifies with the gender that corresponds with their sex assigned at birth, that person would be cisgender. But if a person's gender does not correspond with their sex assigned at birth, then we call that person transgender. Our gender is who we are. And we use terms like transitioning, which can sometimes be misleading. Because when we talk about transitioning with respect to gender, yes, there's a transition happening, but that transition is not happening for the person who might say that they're transitioning. That transition is happening for everybody surrounding that person. So the way that we perceive that person, the way that we understand the way that that person dresses and their haircut and their voice is changing, but that person's identity is just being expressed more, and it's not a change that's happening internally. So when we ask why this happens, it's like asking, why are we who we are? Gender expression is the way that we express ourselves, and so it's the way that other people see our gender. And so your gender expression can include your haircut, your voice, the way that you dress, your style of clothing, and sometimes your gender expression conforms with society's expectations for gender, and sometimes your gender expression is androgynous, and sometimes it's on a spectrum, or it's fluid, or it's changing. Sometimes you deny society's concept of gender. It's different, but it's how we let the world see what our gender is and how we express ourselves. So in Obama's second term, the Obama administration, responding to society and how society was becoming more inclusive and how the idea of gender was becoming more inclusive, the Obama administration changed the definition of gender to make it more inclusive and for gender, a wide range of gender expressions, and declared, which is what we know, the government agreed that gender and your sex assigned at birth are not the same thing, and that it's more expansive than that, and that gender is a spectrum. In 2018, under the Trump administration, there is a proposal to change the definition of gender to make it based on biology and based on your sex assigned at birth, which would reverse the Obama administration decision to change the definition of gender, but also is very limiting, not just when it comes to the gender spectrum, but also when it comes to somebody who is intersex. To define gender as your sex assigned at birth is to make gender and sex the same thing, and they're different. And sometimes we want to say that they're the same thing because to say gender seems more polite than to say sex, but it'd be very limiting, and it would essentially erase millions of people's identities from the legal record if the government were to do this. I think the biggest thing is to change the norm. So right now our norm is to expect that if somebody looks a certain way that we know what their gender is. And I think if you want to know how somebody identifies, the best thing to do is to ask that person what their preferred gender pronouns are. I think the one thing I want to say is if you have questions about this, is to educate yourself. You can educate yourself, and I think that it's really powerful to get your questions answered and to learn more, and to just be inclusive and open-minded is really important.